Okay, we're live, we're streaming. We're back at the meeting. Thank you, everybody. So we come now to a reasonably short paper, 4.4. The purpose of this is to seek a decision on an awful lot of things. And so if we come to page 54, the first recommendation is that we receive the financial deliberations report. I will move that. Do I have a second? I do. Thank you, Councillor Maynard. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And now I will invite Janice to tell us what we need to think about.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to take the final step today and work through not only the 3 questions that we posed to the community, but you'll see in recommendation 2 is to formally remove the economic development rate and return the rate to the general rate. And recommendation 3, there are 4 additional items that have come through for consideration that we would like your approval to either have continue to have within the budget envelope or not. And then recommendation 4 is the decision on the 3 questions. So there is a step through of those decisions. I believe that there is a spreadsheet that we can show on the screen. Yep. That shows you how all of these things step us through the rates. We have also been through and done a final review of all of our income and expenditure budgets and either amended them where we need to and reduced them in other areas. Once we get
sharing it now, hang on.
Okay, so this is the spreadsheet. It starts at the 15.3, which is what we went to consultation on.
I wonder if
Yes, I'm sorry.
back to one side.
Yeah, I just can't see that. Thank you.
Thanks, Bud.
The first one is we are increasing our insurance budget by another $68,000. That's come from the local authority
Something protection.
thing. It's your underground pipe work.
Yeah.
Insurance.
Big pipe.
Notified really late in the piece that there was going to be between a range of 1 and 2, and we've gone for the middle range to bring us in line with that. The next 2 for interest and depreciation are just recalibrating the interest and depreciation based on what we know is happening this year for capital works. We've added 20,000 for a poll for the Maori ward, which we will have to do as part of the process for the next election. The next one, so rows 15, 16, 17 and 18 are in the decision paper for you to say yes or no to. If we just keep going down, we've had to reduce some income because the forecasts were too high, even with the fees and charges amendments that were over where we needed to be. Then we've got the additional operating efficiency savings. So there's been quite a bit of movement in there in terms of things that we could remove.
That's $500,000 in savings.
Yep. And then if you go down to the bottom, you can see there's a very nice number there that says 14.6. So all things as they currently are, with no further amendments, the rate would be 14.6. In the paper, if you on decision 1 for the waters, if you were to decide on option 1, we have got 3 other lines in there that you could do an option 1 plus for the 3 key things that Wellington Water is recommending potentially that we can have. And they're described in the report. So there's riparian planting to be compliant with the consent for Greytown, the second stage of the capacity study for Martinborough for the wastewater treatment plant, and the flood modelling for stormwater in all 3 towns. So they're the 3 things that you have to pick from to add extras, and then with the top ones that we heard were potentially what people wanted to do.
Are they planting gold in Greytown?
For the riparian planting, apparently there is I did challenge this yesterday, and there is a plan already in place for this.
Don't just ask why that's not a capital cost. I'm assuming plants last for a long time.
You struggle with plant as an asset. Generally, planting is not classed as an asset, so you can't capitalise it. So when we get to that point, you know, depending on where you want to land or what you want to do, that will, from here, we'll flick over to the other and then we can see what it does to the percentage. So if we go back, we'll keep this open, and then as we go through, if we agree or disagree, or you want to take them in or out, we can move the dial.
Any other questions about the spreadsheet at this point?
Pretty straightforward. I'm really stoked to see that, you know, these, sorry,
I'm stoked too, yeah.
sorry, I was just going to say, I'm stoked to see that, you know, these over $500,000 worth of savings has been identified.
I would like to personally thank all the other managers in the organisation who've been really working with me to challenge what was in their budgets as of December. It's always quite hard to predict what your budget for the following year is when you've only got half a year's worth of actuals to come with. So now that we've got 10 months, they've all looked at it and gone, oh, actually that could come down. And it honestly was 100 little tiny cuts sort of thing. It was just little tiny savings all over the place. Yeah.
Much appreciated, and actually also appreciate the way that it's been done, and that I would prefer that we get a slightly higher number at that midpoint that can be reduced, rather than our managers give us a reduced number and then at this point they're like, oh, sorry, we've had to add in. So yeah, a double thing.
Yeah.
When that's been done.
Councillor.
Jess, I asked you a question the other day about capital, increasing our capital spend, and I just talked to our staff today, and we're going to reach our debt ceiling in about 5 years on current.
Probably sooner than that.
Okay. Why don't we bring that forward now, knowing that within 5 years we're going to have made a big decision on what's happening? Because if we wait 5 years to reach our as Aidan rightly pointed out, we're sitting, our pipe placement is so low compared to what it has to be to even get ahead, even just to stop the thing. Our capital costs is significantly cheaper on rates than any other thing. Why? Ultimately, it's got to be done sooner or later. And I would be personally comfortable to go with the option 1+ if we increase our capital spend at the same time, because otherwise we're sticking fingers in holes, because we're every time we fix a pipe, it increases the pressure, which blows the pipe down the other end, and we need to be, and I use the term which I won't be talking about, but
By the way.
it's just madness to say we're going to keep spending operational but not actually doing the maximum amount of capital works to reduce the operational costs. Ultimately, these pipes have to be replaced, and I would far rather we do it sooner rather than later, because if we don't, every year our operational cost is going to go up. Every year, and that's exactly what's been happening, certainly since I've been on council. So if you want to go the lower spend on water, there's got to be a flip side to say, let's do more capital works. And I know there's debt ceiling is 5 years down the track, and we can't wait 5 years, and I know I'm going to argue against it.
Well, we'll see one of it because the standards meet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to disagree. No, there are too many unknowns at this stage, and we're currently working on modelling or looking at what Three Waters are going to look like in the future anyhow. And I think it would be a bit premature for us to commit. My personal view is, given the unknowns that we face in the future, on where we land. And I accept your argument basically that we get everything fixed now and we don't have to worry about this ongoing maintenance.
I'm not suggesting we fix everything now.
Well, we spend our ceiling cap, which is really quite risky in my view, but that's only my personal view.
Councillor.
I'm just wondering if we can maybe debate these points in order so that each point gets a fair hearing, because otherwise we might end up going.
Well, that was it.
What are the fifth one?
No.
I did invite discussion on, and so I'm going to treat what we've just listened to out of that. But what I intend to do
No, the first decision is moving the economic development.
4 in order. When we come to recommendation 3, then doing A, B, C, D alone. So anyway, we come now to recommendation 2, which is something we did discuss earlier today. And the resolution is to resolve to remove the economic development from the rating model for 24-25.
Yeah.
And return the value. I do. Do I have a second there? Do, Councillor Plummer. Melissa, do you want to talk to the recommendation?
Only to reiterate what I said earlier, which is that I strongly support this move and the officer's recommendation of it. And as I said earlier, I think currently the modelling doesn't reflect the intent, and I think there's more work to be done, and I would prefer to remove it now and perhaps begin LTP.
Councillor Plummer. Anybody wish to speak to a contrary opinion? In that case, I shall put it. All in favour of the recommendation as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? There being none, we'll carry out the recommendation 3. We'll do these in order. And the first part is that we resolve following addition. Plan for 24-25. And part A is to reinstate the youth and community grant fund at $120,000. Do I have a move, please? I do. Councillor Bowles, second. I do. Councillor Gray. Councillor Bowles, do you wish to talk?
No, it's pretty much self-explanatory. We've had it before.
Councillor Gray?
Yep, done.
Okay, anybody wish to? Yes, thank you.
So all of these are already in here. Mhm. Yep.
Okay, in that case, I shall put it to the vote. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried. We come to part 3B. Confirm $60,000 as approved by council in November 2023 for the Greytown Sports and Leisure. This is for 24-25 only. Do I have a mover? I do, Councillor Plummer, and a seconder, Councillor Clonsley. Do you wish to talk? Okay, anybody wish to say anything? Okay, all in favour, please.
Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
I just had a,
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to confirm that this 60,000 is where, so it's also being looked at onto what it would look like as a district-wide.
Let's forget.
So that's what that 60,000 is, but just so then, that as a reminder of why this is sitting here and it's had to wait to come into the enhanced annual plan. I didn't want to say anything because I thought you might speak to it, but it's just so people are aware that actually they will be investigating on how it would work as a district-wide.
It's only for the first year.
Yeah, and that's why we're only looking at doing it for the first year.
So we'll follow that. Thanks. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And against? That being no one, we now come to 3C. And this is to provide 20,000 for the Five Towns Trails Trust to fund operational costs, provided that the other 3 councils all confirm their commitment to fund their share of the budget of 120,000. This is for 2024-5 to 2026 7. Do I have anybody who wishes to know that? Councillor Holmes. Do I have a seconder? Do you wish to talk?
It's very much self-explanatory. Obviously, I'm the representative on the Five Towns Trails. The Warrapper Trails Action Group. It is, yeah. So the trust is a newly formed trust, and I've been a very supportive councillor around the table over the last probably 6 or 7 years to achieve the results that we've got today with the Five Towns Trails Trust. So I fully support this.
Councillor Bosley.
I just endorse what Councillor
Right.
Well said.
We have views. Councillor Go Woodcock, then Dealings.
Thanks, Mayor. You all have a few concerns about this. I'm fully aware that cycle trails can be quite a good thing for health and recreation and everything else. What worries me is they told us that the ratepayer would be paying for none of this, just really to keep them rolling along. And I think they said something like $32 million project, and government is really nailing down on not funding a lot of stuff at the moment. I'm wondering whether or not this will even advance very far at all, and whether we're actually throwing money at nothing.
Thank you, councillor Elams, then myself.
Thanks, Mayor Marsden. It's 2024, 25 through to 26, 27, so 20K annually. So will we have to have the same discussion again next year in the LTP process for the following years? Okay,
Like an MOU,
Yeah,
sorry,
like an MOU, you agree on the program.
okay, thank you.
Well, I don't see that we're voting on $20,000 per annum. I see we're voting around $20,000.
It is.
And anyway, I will vote
3
against it.
So
20,000
each
per year for 3 years.
So on page 56, so a bit further along, there's an explanation there under the 5 Towns Trail Trust that says council consider approving contribution 20K per annum in 2024, 25 to 26, 27 towards operating costs.
It is $20,000 per annum.
Well, that is not what the recommendation says. So if that's what we're going to vote on, see somebody to move an amendment to include the words per year.
Per annum. Yes.
Do we have anybody?
Okay, well, I'll move that amendment application.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh, no, it does say at the bottom of the recommendation, 24, 25 through to 26.
right, it does show the years.
Yeah, just for clarification,
Yeah, just
Application.
$20,000 per year.
per
Yeah, that's
annum.
fine.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, I'm happy to second it.
You second that. Any comment? All in favour, please say aye.
All right,
Aye.
So in my head, it's gone from $50,000 to $60,000. I will vote against this. Partly for the reason that Councillor Woodcock noted that the assurance all along was that this would come the account to ratepayers. Secondly, in actual fact, this council has acquired the huge liability of the suspension bridge, which we will pay for the rest of our time. And in that sense, it represents a much greater contribution to actual cycling and railing than anything we're going to do here. My third reason is that the whole point of the trust was that the trust was going to be, if you like, it's going to have trustees that have the capacity to go and raise money outside of councils. So if that is the case, this is the place where they need to start in mind. Do we have another speaker?
I was just wondering, through you, Chair, Dennis, just where it says that it's provided on, how's it worded? On what the other councils are doing, basically, you know, not verbatim. But so if they both remove and we vote towards putting this in,
So if they don't, then we wouldn't, right?
but then how do we change it if we're actually moving it now?
it's something.
Carterton are, I believe, are deliberating today. Masterton deliberate on the 5th of June. So as soon as that happens, if they don't, then we would remove the 20,000 before we strike the rates. Yeah.
Fantastic, and that, I guess, just stops us from the previous year where we made a call and then found out later on that that's like, so.
Which is why I've written this based on all the
Okay.
councils
Yeah.
contributing, because
Thank you,
we're either all in or all out.
yeah.
All right, Colin and.
Yep.
Councillor.
No, thanks for your comments, Martin. I think it's important to remember that the trust is set up to be an enabler to access future funding for trials, and also the trust works alongside a lot of other opportunity groups. For instance, Wairapa Moana has had a feasibility study on setting up a cycle trail, walking trail down through there. So that would be, the driver would come from the trust to a large extent. At the moment, that feasibility study and any work in the future, that is in limbo because the individual who is actually driving it has left the district. You know, so it's a good document, and I'd hate to see it sit on a shelf somewhere after $30,000 of expense from the Fab Fairley Group. For it not to be enacted, and this is where the trust will take on. I take your point, it is a lot of money over the next 3 years, but the reality is I think the benefits right across the South Wairapa and across the Wairapa district will be huge in terms of numbers of people that actually make use of the trails that are set aside by this trust. So I think it's short-sighted not to invest in this, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I completely accept what you said there, and to a certain extent, I agree with you. But I am sort of partly in Woody's camp as well here, that, and those that have seen council over the last 3 years would say that I have been consistent in talking about the costs that are going to be by ratepayers with this infrastructure, should it ever be built. And you've absolutely raised the first point, Martin, that no ratepayers were in South Wairarapa were consulted about the bridge, which we are now paying for through depreciation and maintenance and so on for the rest of the life. So that aside, I'm quite comfortable for 20,000 for this coming year, but I would like to see that contestable going forward based on actually achieving results. And if we get a report back and say, yes, we've achieved this and so on, and this council says yes, then we can actually make a determination to say, actually, we are getting value for money here, rather than just guaranteeing them 60,000.
I'd buy into that.
Can we make that
Can we do
an
that?
amendment we can make?
You can just make it for 24/5 and then revisit it with the LTP, because the other direction will be clear by then.
Makes sense, yep.
Yes.
So do the mover and seconder approve of excluding the words to 26, 27? In that case, we will get it accordingly. Does anybody else wish to? Okay, so what we're doing is voting on giving $20,000 to the trust, subject to the other councils contributing, and we are voting to do it for 1 year. Is everybody clear on that? Okay, thank you. So I shall put it to the vote now. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
All right.
No. It's carried. And now we come to water resilience, and recommendation here is that we provide rather a strange figure, I think, 29,400 as part contribution to the water resilience program, providing again that the other 3 councils confirm their commitment to fund their share of the overall budget of 149,500. And this is for 24-25 only. Do I have a mover? I do. Councillor Gray, Councillor Seconder, Councillor Sadler-Footer. Councillor Gray, would you like to talk to me?
No, apart from the fact that the specific projects that are listed, I think are incredibly important, and I'm really happy to fund those.
Okay. Councillor Sadler-Footer. Seconder.
Yeah, so much like Councillor Gray, the work that is being done in the water resilience, Wairarapa water resilience strategy is incredibly important, and the work that is being done there, to my belief, will benefit the entire district and should be progressed. So happy to support that.
Anyone else like to? Yes, Councillor Elands and then Councillor.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. So the funding for this, is that going to come out of the original Better Off funding? It's coming out of the,
Right funded,
okay,
but it is in that 14.6.
Yeah.
Thanks, Martin. I was got a querying question about the percentages everyone's paying. Why Carlton's so low and we're quite a bit higher than Carlton? It's interesting that the regional council were paying less than Marston.
Many of these things are done on a per capita basis. And we're bigger than Carlton.
Capital thing, that's what it is. No, that's fair enough.
Most of the things that are done with the 3 or 4 councils are split in this exactly this way.
Right. Any final comments from mover or seconder?
No.
Then I will put it. So we're about to vote that for 1 year only, we allocate $29,400 to the water resilience program, provided that the other 3 councils will confirm their commitment to fund their share of the budget. So all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes, that's carried also. Now we come to recommendation 4. And now we're going back to possibly paper 4.1 started off with quite early. And the first decision relates to how much we spend on operating and maintaining the services. And I'll just the invitation again, Janice, because what you've said is that if we do go with the recommended option, that you then suggest some additions, which are, I think, the three additions. Is there anything?
I think we need to decide whether it is option 1, 2 or 3, in terms of where you want to land, and then decide whether we pick up A, B and C.
Okay. So, well, in order to get things rolling, the decision that's required is how much do we spend on operating and maintaining our water services. I will move that we accept option 1, which is the budgeted and recommended.
A second that.
Do I have a second? I do, Councillor Holmes. Thank you. Well, I think there's a number of reasons for going with it. One of them is the consideration of the overall impact on ratepayers. We've talked a number of times about, for example, the impact that much smaller decisions might have, for example, on fragile populations. Nothing to what this decision would have on a much larger range of people were we to change our mind. Again, it's what we're think with what we're lining up on the spreadsheet behind us. I think most people will recognise that we've sort of struck quite a good balance between restraining costs but providing services. I think what we've got is something that's we can argue it soundly to Councillor Orange.
Thanks for that, Martin. I'm very, very conscious of the fact that this is an enhanced annual plan and not a long-term plan, because I think this conversation will be enhanced even further as we move in towards our LTP discussions. But I'm really keen to get this over the line in terms of option 1 for the next 12 months to see where we go, and then we have a little bit more information as we move forward. So,
and then Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I'd be interested to see on the spreadsheet what the effect of the rates would be if we went for option 2, which is the 6.63 mil, because while we had a majority of submitters 53% recommend the option 1, we had 29.5% recommend the option 2, and I'm just keen to see what effect that option 2 would have on our rates, probably, and option 3 as well.
It's up there already.
18.
It adds 4.3%.
3.3.
I hadn't.
Oh, no, that's the spreadsheet.
Figure.
So it's added 4%.
Okay, sorry, I hadn't seen that.
Charlie, you have to put it while you're talking, while you're answering.
Yeah, she's fast.
Item 3.
It's in
Up 4% to 18.6.
That's for option.
That's option 2.
And what,
option 3. Up by 7.2 from option 1, so another 3.2% on
We've
that.
got 21.8.
Good way to end up with that.
Sorry.
I think we'll end up with those.
No.
Yes,
Yes, so I come back to my previous question, which is Aidan and our strategy working group, it was very clear about how much we need to invest in our pipe replacement. We have been told repeatedly over a number of years that we are behind in just the basics of pipe replacement. And we're not even talking about getting ahead, we're talking about just maintaining ourselves here. And all that just coming to mind is it's just kick the can down the road again and again and again. And so I come back, I could support option 1 plus if we do something with our capital. And as we found out just the other day, $1 million in capital is 0.3% on our rates. And so the only issue for me is actually when do we reach our debt ceiling, which is self-imposed, of course. It's not a statutory requirement. At the moment, we've got 5 years of which to play here. And kicking the can down the road again is not an option. So, you know, if you want to go the lower, and there is 48% of the population of submitters alone who said option 2 or 3. Certainly the feeling I get talking to people is do more now, not less, when I walk around, and that's not, you know, that's just what I pick up as I talk to people and people talk to me. But I would rather spend more on capital because we get more bang for buck with capital and it reduces our long-term operating cost if we fix pipes. Because the most expensive thing to do is to fix pipes when they burst. If you fix them before they burst, it's significantly cheaper. And we're not looking at this as a whole thing. We're looking at it, we're only interested in operating costs because that's rates. Well, we need to actually take a wider view of this. And here we are, we've got another option to do it. And if we don't, we're just kicking the can down the road again.
Okay, well, what if I could invite your comment there, because I think what the council's member is doing is urging a greater spend, a greater capital spend. But what we're doing here is talking about the operating costs get added.
Which is on rates.
I don't think
Capital goes on rates.
don't think there has to be an either or.
Well, there is, because it's $1 million of capital is 3%, 0.3% on rates.
We need to come and have that decision. Do you wish to make it?
It's confused me.
So, through the chair, in the workshop, you're quite correct that I think, hit our debt ceiling in year 4. We would be looking at getting a credit rating to expand that. It's not a self-imposed ceiling, it's a ceiling imposed by the local government funding agency. So we use their calculations to arrive at that ceiling. The other thing to keep in mind is that over the 10 years of what we were looking at when we were looking at the LTP, we again came close to the ceiling at year 10. So this isn't just a 1 hit, it's potentially a 2 hit. The other issue is we are going to be working towards the local waters done well plan and what that means for the Wairarapa councils and how we move that forward. And if we add capital now, then what does that mean for that going forward? And I'll ask Robin to comment on that because she's been working on the modelling in that space as well. And I've seen a lot of commentary recently of councils having big rate rises because they had done things in advance of the affordable waters regime and now found that they were having to pick it up because that had been cancelled. So we do need to be mindful of that. I would recommend that you look at this as part of the LTP process when we've got more certainty around the local waters done well platform and what that's looking at and where it's going, because that will give you the platform of where is that debt going to go and how do they fund it, because they may have a completely, whatever entity we end up in, may have a completely different calculating structure to how they charge than how we charge. You're correct in the 0.3% for interest and depreciation potentially. It depends on what we're spending it on as to the life and how that runs through. But that would hit in 25, 26, which is why I'm cautioning how you are lining stuff up for the future. If there's anything that diverts the local waters done well and it goes haywire, then you've already lined up a rate rise for the next year by default.
But it's still going to, ultimately, you have to replace the pipes. There's no getting away from it.
No, but we might be doing that in a very different model.
Yeah.
No, Janice has invited Robin, but we'll just give Robin a couple of seconds to think about her answer because we'll go to the listener.
Thank you. I strongly support option 1 with the potential for option 1+. And I support that for a number of reasons. The first is affordability to our ratepayers. We are in an economic climate that is seeing redundancy en masse in a situation in the economic space that is only forecast to get worse. As I mentioned earlier today, when we engage, by and large at the moment, we are engaging with well-resourced people, both in their experience and in their finances. So it's not surprising to me that we've got sort of 49% of people who are saying absolutely spend more. I think once we get to a space where we are engaging with a broader range of people, I think it will be much easier to rely more heavily on that information that we're getting back as being quite balanced. The second reason that I support option one is that in a recent SWC committee meeting, we talked about Wellington Water's budget control and financial management of their projects, and we asked our team to work with Wellington Water to strengthen their practices and budget control and financial management. And we've asked them to come back and show us how that they are going to do that going forward. So to me, I would feel vastly more confident and comfortable setting a smaller budget at this time, knowing that there are practices coming that will better control that funding. And thirdly, we chose to go down an enhanced annual plan path this year due to the uncertainty, particularly in the water space. So it seems a little, although I do agree with you, we've got a vast amount of work to do, it seems crazy to recognise the uncertainty in the space, to move away from an LTP and then to plough massive amounts of money into water, given that we've already acknowledged its uncertainty. And personally, I can't stomach a 21.6% rates rise based on.
Thanks, Martin. Just to follow on from where I was talking, what I was saying initially, I think I spoke at that last SWC meeting in my portfolio lead report, saying and referencing that currently we're only replacing 1.2 kilometres of pipeline annually, and our advice from Wellington Water in September last year was that we should be replacing 2.6 kilometres annually over the next 30 years. So I've certainly taken on board their advice, and as Stefan has said in the past, Wellington Water are our trusted advisors. However, we also know that we have some issues and difficulties with them, and hopefully that undertaking that they're going to report back to us by the end of July on looking at their processes and planning and budgeting practices for their projects, we will get some traction and some improvement. The second point I'd just like to add is that Alistair and Janice have talked about the budget cap. Is it
Debt cap.
debt cap? There are councils who have voluntarily gone over their debt cap to fund projects, and whether that was infrastructure projects or nice to have projects like town halls and parks and that sort of thing. So while we haven't reached that limit yet, other councils have, and they have gone over that. But yeah, certainly it's I think, it's a good discussion, but I just think we need to keep in mind that we need to be increasing and improving our networks, our pipes, and reducing those leakages.
How do you feel now, Rob?
Good, Chair, thank you. In terms of the impact on next year's rates, we have increased this year's capital budget by $1 million, as you did in the strategy work report. So in terms of going forward with the capital investment program, the approach that Wellington Water took was they looked at a region, what their capability, or they looked at everything in the region. They said, how much can we actually deliver in this region? And they couldn't deliver everything that was needed. So they took it down and then they apportioned that to us. And we're currently working on an investment program which represents what they believe they can deliver to our district when they're looking at all of their capability across the region. We're delivering something like $5 million this year. Charlie's got the numbers, but the investment program that we're looking at over the next 9 years, 10 years, and we're looking at under Local Water Done Well, is something like $147 million. It's significantly higher than what we have been doing recently. And that's what Wellington Water believes they can help us deliver. That being said, we are working on we are looking at a combined Wairapa, potentially Tararua program, what we could deliver. And so that's all going to get worked through as we develop the local water done well options. So we are looking at significant increases in the capital investment in the next 9 years.
If you go down to the end of the table, I think, AU has had up with this.
Also, Pip's been waving for quite a while as well.
Yes, I think AU first.
Oh, I don't mind. Anyway, okay. I thought Melissa, a lot of things I thought very well, so I would repeat a lot of those. And I'm just aware, I know everyone's got very good points and we're all torn on this, but I also feel we did go out with a recommendation, I'm not quite sure if it's quite the right word, to our ratepayers, and on the consultations we had, especially the one we had here, we had the largest turnout, I think. There were a lot of very well-heeled people there, a lot of retired chief executives and things like that, and still it was the majority of the people at that meeting wanted to go for the option one. So I just really think we have got a responsibility. I mean, I think we can't possibly go up with a much higher level than what we did at that. So I just really agree. Melissa put it very well.
Thank you, Kate.
And so I actually agree as well. I think that option one is probably sitting at the best space. But I was wondering, Charlie, because you're magic and you always have already probably done all of this, are you able just to show us what option one looks like with those additional things that are on there that have been asked for by Wellington Water? So the Greytown riparian planting, the Martinborough capacity study, and the stormwater and flood modelling. Because I think no, they're not. So that's why it would just be really good to actually have a look, see how that changes anything.
So that would add 205,000, which is 0.8%. So you'd be back to 15.4 total rates increase.
Right.
So that's with all three. So that's
all three.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mia.
Sorry, I just had a little bit more to ask. I'd just like to know about these because I'm not sure about if it came up last week or whatever, but I don't know
None of us.
about these three things and where this has suddenly come from and what it is, because it's being asked for in this coming financial year. So I think that we need more oversight on it, if that's possible, just to have a quick
vote on them all individually. We will get detailed explanation.
Yeah, so you do the decision to whether it's option 1, 2 or 3. And then if wherever you land, then you look at A, B and C as separate resolutions. So you don't have to take them all as one decision. You're making 4 decisions.
Oh, right.
Thanks. On firmly at option 1, much of because what Melissa said and a few other things such as even at decision 1, I think we keep forgetting that is still a lot more money than we gave them last year. Every year we have been going above increasing it, where the likes of Roding never got that for a lot. Also Collins points about the new water's done well, and let's get everything in the right place first. Alistair mentioned about more capital works, and I can sort of agree with that, and he quoted 0.3% for that $1 million or whatever. I don't think that's quite right, but it's close. But what you've also got to take into account, that's 0.3% probably for 30 years while it's been paid off. It's not just for this one-off year.
It's not compounding.
What's that?
It's not compounding.
No, but you've still got to pay it every year. Doesn't disappear after this year. So yeah, I'm stuck firmly at option 1 at the moment.
Yes, I think the canvas lists pretty well. So what happens is we will now vote on option 1 because that's the motion before the meeting. If it fails, then I'll invite somebody to move either option 2 or 3. So the motion before us is option one, maintain the current level of funding with an increase for unavoidable extra costs. This is our budgeted and recommended option. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say no.
No.
That is carried. So now we will come.
So you got me as a no though, right?
Sorry?
Have you got me as a no?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we come to the issue of if we accept that recommendation, which we just had, could we add 3 more components to it? And the first one is the breakdown of area. Planting plan of $70,000. So Janice, who would like to? Okay.
Please.
Come in again, Rob.
A riparian planting plan is part of the considerations that we have for the Greytown wastewater treatment plant. The consents in that we agreed to prepare a riparian planting plan that has to be certified by Greater Wellington Regional Council. So when Lawrence Stevenson was here, actually, he was instrumental in helping to prepare the plan. Then the Greater Wellington Regional Council got their ecologists to review it, and then it has been agreed. That plan has been agreed, it just hasn't been implemented. So this has been going on for a number of years. This will help us in terms of our Greytown wastewater treatment plant. We have some issues with the Papawai stream, which there is no planting runoff into the stream. So it is all part of an environmental enhancement plan at the Greytown wastewater treatment plant, and for improving the quality of the stream and helping us in our disposal and managing water quality. It is in option 3, we brought it into year 1. In options 1 and 2, it was pushed out, not starting until next year. It was in there, it was just pushed out a year. So as a good faith to the community, to the regulator, and to iwi, we think we need to get this going because it's been sitting there for a number of years.
Now, before we have any further comment, we're going to require somebody to move a motion that we add this to option 1. Do I have anybody who wishes to do that? Okay.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now, let's just think of an appropriate word. So I think the motion can read that the Greytown riparian planting plan costing $70,000 to be added to option 1, moved by councillor A, and the seconder.
I've got more questions.
Right, okay, thank you. Okay, would you like to talk to the motion?
Oh, I think it was explained very well how it's been planned for a long time, and it sounds like really good to do for the environment and not too great a cost. So
Councillor.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. Certainly agree. Be good to accelerate this. And as we're coming into winter, well, just a question, is this going to be occurring this season, planting season, or is it going to be pushed out until?
Let's see if we can get
If we give them the go ahead, they'll start putting it in place as soon as possible. I do want to make clear this is a program of work. It's not just 1 year. There is a program over a number of years. And then just one more thing I probably haven't mentioned. I have spoken to our Whamari about this, and I understand she spoke to the Māori Standing Committee about this as well. Which I gave her
Okay, I don't know how I've missed it then. However, but my question is, because what I would like to know is with regards to the plants, are they all coming from the hapu? So if she's already discussed it with them, it's in here now, and I'd like to know that there actually has been that oversight by our Māori Standing Committee, especially those from Papawai. Nobody knows those streams. Nobody knows what should be planted there more than they do. And so, you know, I'd like to know, has Wellington Water done anything, or has it just been, what's your understanding of what's actually been done? Because I don't know, and I haven't heard anything.
So my understanding of what's been done is it's been certified by the Greater Wellington Regional Ecologists. That was the requirement. I don't know what Narita has done. Is Nikki still here? Yeah. So what have
Yeah, through you, Chair, it was mentioned most in because the discussion was mainly around the water supply for Marae. So even though it was touched on, I could.
Yeah. Come up.
We mainly around.
And so I mean, I don't believe this has actually been fully brought to the table to find out with regards to it. I understand the importance of it, but I think that like, you know, with the amount, there's no budgeting what the costs are, where this amount has come from. So I mean, I'd just like to see a little bit more information with regards to it, because it's brand new. It's brand new. It hasn't been at the table until now.
Follow-up question. When you say we agree to it, give the money, they will start it. Who are they?
This originally going to be done under Wellington in the first year. That's the certified plan that's been agreed. And then as I said in the explanation here, where we want Wellington to continue to work after that, something that we can assess.
Yeah, I want to pick up a point that Councillor Woodcock raised earlier. I mean, there is an awful lot of wetland restoration going on. Similar part of the world. Great Wellington are active contributors for that, but the most stunning wetland restoration occurs when, if you like, private groups, I don't mean private, but I mean community groups with a real interest in the environment get on. And I, to be honest, I cannot see why we're going to do this sort of activity. We're not, if you like, capturing the community and getting them to, I just do believe we get vastly better than it. Yes.
I think through the chair, Robin's already explained that this is a condition of the consent and we have some criteria that we have to follow through on. So we don't have as much wiggle room as maybe you think in terms of delivering this.
I'm not looking for wiggle room. I believe in it. Like, you know, don't get me wrong. I absolutely believe in this, and I'm not looking for wiggle room, except, as I say, it would be really good just to see how this amount has come up and what it means. Like, what is that going towards? So what's being paid for? Will it cover the full amount, or as you said, it's over years? So is that meaning 70,000 for how many years? Or
a program of work at the back?
Yeah.
This was in year 2 and onwards of what was the proposed LTP when we're looking at it.
Yeah. So next year's the LTP.
We're just saying to bring it forward to year 1 so we can make a start and then we can look at it again as part of the LTP.
I just don't feel confident in it because this wasn't discussed yet. I believe in it, and I think that it would be right, but I just don't know if it, like 70,000 is the right amount. That's all.
Councillor.
My question really is there scope to agree the budget amount in principle and with the ability to answer some of Councillor Maynard's questions? So particularly around engagement with iwi and
I'll follow whatever mana whenua want.
Like surely at this point where we're just approving the budget spend rather than actually are we able to, for each 3 really, are we able to agree or disagree the budget spend, and then there's conversation later about the work itself?
I would suspect on this one we don't have a lot of, if we've got an approved ecology plan through Greater Wellington, then that's what we are wanting to deliver. So that
just to clarify though, I absolutely understand that this is the approved consented piece of work, but that's come about because of a need for the consent that actually addresses the concern of whenua. So surely there must be within that consented piece of work, there must be the need to talk to the local mana whenua, which what we're hearing right now is perhaps that hasn't been done.
The Papua Marae.
Councillor.
Yeah, can I just make a comment? Because ultimately when the Greytown consent was granted back in 2017, I think, Robin, there was probably a comprehensive, and I'm only thinking out loud here, some years ago now, but there's a comprehensive riparian planting plan that was submitted at the time of the application for consent and widely consulted on by mana whenua, and particularly in the Papua region. I can't imagine there would be much of a variation other than the timing. Yeah, and that's all it was really, isn't it? I mean, it's really, it was, so the consent itself would have been approved by mana whenua. That formed part of the consent conditions, and we're now trying to meet our obligations in terms of the conditions. So that would be my understanding.
Okay, like to reply.
I just have concerns that I don't believe that from 2016 or when it was put through with regards to this, that is actually the case. I think that being able to confirm that Papua was involved, and because you know, I think that is really important. And I'd also like to know if any funds from that annual plan went towards this as well.
They wouldn't have done this as a staged approach, so they wouldn't
We
have.
haven't started it yet.
Well, then because it's staged and we were looking at starting it from the following year, I understand what you're saying, but I just feel like because it's brand new, if it had, even if we'd had another month to be able to, or to understand what it was that we were needing, we could have actually had a really good, robust discussion about this at the multi-standing committee meeting. And I didn't know, like, you know, so this is news to me about this coming through here.
Can I just make another comment? Because I just go.
Yeah, I just wondered, you know, I really take your concerns, but, you know, we can't change what's happened. And I'm just wondering, and there's a little bit like Melissa was saying that, you know, isn't surely we'd have the communications with Wellington Water that we could get them to talk to Papua about just if they're happy with because you're more concerned about the right kind of plants like that, which I think is.
That's just a part of it.
That's part of it, isn't it? The main part. Would that make you happy if they could just do that to make sure that they were happy with the right kind of plants? It just seems strange that it's so set in stone. There's just not able conversation to make that part okay.
So then can I just clarify with Nikki? Nikki, was anything, what was decided with regards to this at the multi-standing committee table that I'm not aware of?
So through you, the paper was related to the advanced standing plan, so it was around the through decision. And it wasn't about the discussion predominantly focused around the option about reducing the water allocation.
Yeah.
And so that's where the attention for the meeting sat.
So it was in the paper but never brought up at the table. Is that correct?
It was mentioned at the table, but the discussion went down.
Okay, so I think we've had quite a lot of time on this, and we're getting ready to vote. As always, if you're not happy with the recommendation, then you do have the option of saying no, and it can come back again at a future date. I wonder if you could just read out the recommendation.
Oh, just to order me, but I didn't get an answer. So if there was some room to be able to get Wellington Water to at least discuss with the iwi that they were happy with the type. And if that it sort of seems unreasonable, we don't have a relationship that's able to get that like little
Stage consent. Why do we have?
I think the answer to that through the chair is I'm not sure at this point.
Yeah.
So I think we either put it to the vote and it either goes through or it doesn't, and we go from there.
Okay.
To agree, the Greytown riparian planting plan existing $70,000 be added to that option 1.
Happy to move that.
Well, it's been moved. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
I still believe it needs to be run through with mana whenua first. So I'm sorry, I disagree. And because I believe that this could be sorted pretty quickly. That's why we have a multi-standing committee. We have people from the Papua representatives on there that this could be run through with, and then be able to make even if it was an extraordinary, whatever we need to do to ensure that we're following the right procedure.
Why would you vote for it, against it, or abstaining?
I said I disagree, so I'm against moving forward without this being run through with mana whenua.
Can you tell me what the vote is?
I have one against, councillor
You have
Miller.
two against.
Sorry, who was that? Who else was that?
I voted against.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is the Martinborough capacity study. And again, we will have a motion that the capacity study costing $75,000 be added to option one. Seconding it. Does anybody wish to?
You want to get?
Thank you. Wellington Water needs to do capacity studies predicated by growth projections in Martinborough in order for us to properly design any upgrades required for our network, i.e. our wastewater piping and our wastewater treatment plant. Under our bedrock funds, the analysis of our wastewater network has been completed. That stage one has been completed due to upgrades that we've already done and what's in the ground. We have capacity for growth in the future. We won't need to do any upgrades. The second part of that study is to then feed those growth projections into our wastewater treatment plant. In order for us to start connections again, we need to have a plan on how we're going to upgrade for future growth of Martinborough. So this is a very important study that we do. It was in options 2 and 3, but it was not in option 1. So it's not asking for us to continue our work to make sure that we can design upgrades to Martinborough wastewater treatment plant and further reconnections once funded.
Councillor Plummer, you might wish to say.
It absolutely has quoted me word for word. I couldn't add anything extra.
Councillor Evans, do you want to?
Other than, short and sweet, other than that, this is something that is needed for Martinborough to progress, move forward. That's why I put my hand up.
Right, let's just ask if there are any, if there are.
Just a small and potentially contentious question. Just say it quietly. There's been a lot of talk about using.
No, sir.
So
No, okay, it's fine. I withdraw.
That's not connected to this.
No, okay, but what?
For those of us who missed most of that, can we ask what it is?
No.
Social care. Any other? Okay, then can you read the motion out?
Agree the Martinborough capacity study costing $75,000 to be added to option 1.
Okay, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes, it's carried. And now we come to the third topic of addition, which is stormwater and flood modelling. So I think the appropriate wording is that a stormwater and flood modelling program costing $60,000 added to option 1. Do I have a mover? I do. Councillor Plummer, Councillor Gray, seconded it. Councillor Plummer, anything you wish to?
No, I just think you've got to look out the window in Featherston when it rains.
Not anymore, mate.
Why does
Because
why does that cost?
it floods housing out of country.
Right, Councillor Gray.
I guess probably more a question for Robin. Is 60,000 enough?
Well, I mean, that's what our advisor has proposed. That's 20,000 per tonne. Yeah, I'm just depending on their price.
I have to say, I'm surprised that this is not a capital item, because my recollection is that if I was planning to build a thing somewhere and I need to do some pre-study to understand the geology, whatever, that those are not capitalized. What's the problem?
Through the chair, when you're modelling, you don't have a defined outcome. You're looking at a range of options and solutions. And that is operational costs because you haven't got a capital project coming out of it. If this was designing stormwater mitigation, then that would be capitalised as part of the project because it's the design for the outcome. This is modelling what the outcomes could be, and there could be a number of them. Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
If one person asks if it's enough, I'm like Alistair said, if you can look out the window and have a look, why do we need to spend 60,000 when you can go and ask the locals where to put your pipes? Yeah. But anyway.
We'll be asking the local.
I think there's been lots of stormwater modelling for flood and that in Gradian that was an absolute cock up and a waste of a lot of money, so I'll be voting no.
Can I just ask you, in terms of the work that's already been done in Pedeston in particular with GW, how will the modelling align with the information what we have
in Gradian? It's horrendous.
Yeah, we,
Work stuff like
yes,
that
we,
all day
the
on.
work that's been done in Featherston and the work that's planned here, the chief advisor for stormwater for Wellington Water is going to be coming to speak to you in a workshop that's going to be arranged in the future. And she's going to explain to you how all these pieces of information are going to be leading into an integrated stormwater framework to take forward that will then our because we haven't traditionally spent much in capital or that much in OPEX around stormwater. No. And it's becoming much more complex with what's happening. And so all this is going to be brought into an overall framework, and she's going to work through all that with you.
Thank you.
Will we pay for the global consent, will we not?
We in our investment program, we have stage 1 consent, global stormwater consent.
Yeah.
That dictates 5 years of monitoring, and then that monitoring information will inform any future work that we have to do. So that is included in the capital.
Okay, so we can put it to a vote, but I just make the following observation: to a greater or lesser extent, stormwater is caused by other things we do. For example, impermeable surfaces, etc., etc., etc. I confess I would be delighted to see $60,000 added to a program to reduce the. But anyway, that's for another day. So, would you like to read the motion, please?
Agree the stormwater and flood modelling costing $60,000 to be added to action 1.
All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and yes. Have one against. Thank you very much. So the final.
So, Mr. Mayor, before we move on from water, I'd like to add. I'd like to raise a proposal. Sorry, I'd like to add a motion for on water. I would like to propose that $1 million of capital, additional capital expended to be spent in year 24-25, specifically earmarked for pipe replacement across our network.
Didn't Robin just say that our spend was based on?
There are other contractors.
Capacity and
specifically earmarked.
Shouldn't that be an LTP discussion coming up later this year?
Well, I'm adding it to.
I'd second that.
Well, you've got to vote to accept the amendment first before you.
Well, it's not an amendment to anything. I think it's an additional.
Yeah.
It's an amendment to the resolution, so it's still technically an amendment to the resolution.
Also with those other 3. So that's just another.
Yeah, they were written into the report, so that one isn't. So that amendment.
So what words do I need to say to that?
So you need to have a.
Okay, I'd like to propose that I can add another.
Seconder, and then you need to.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and your seconder was councillor. Do you wish to say anything you haven't said just now?
Well, no, apparently I've got to now talk about having, I'd just like to propose that we have that I can propose something else to be added. So what am I doing?
You've done that. You've put forward your amendment.
And you've a seconder. Now you need to speak to it.
Oh, okay. So look, oh, right. Okay. So, as I said before, we have had very clear reports over a number of years saying that we are falling behind on our pipe replacement, no matter what we do. We're kicking a can down the road. This is 0.3% on our budget to get a kickstart on it. We're earmarking it specifically for pipe work to try and get us up to the 1.2 kilometres that we need to. I think, yes, I'm aware that there's all these studies and things going to go on, but given the track record of making decisions in councils, I would say good water, local water done well won't be here this time next year or the year after. It will probably be 3 or 4 years, depending if the government survives. So if we just keep kicking this can down the road, we won't get anywhere. So that's my proposal, that we earmark it specifically, given the advice that we've been given from Wellington Water that we need to do this.
Councillor, you're the second.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. We have been given advice that of our 209 kilometres of water pipes that we have across the district, 26% are assessed as critical, and we need to be replacing 2.6 Ks every year. I'm certainly keen to kickstart that. Not only will we be saving our treated water between the water treatment plants and the Tobies to go into our residents and ratepayers' addresses, but also our residents and ratepayers will actually see there's a visual prompt there to see that we're actually doing some work to escalate that, to improve our networks, and they'll see that we're taking that seriously, and then hopefully going forward every summer we'll be receiving less complaints of leaks on the footpaths and the roads, which are increasing every summer, as we've seen last year and the years before.
Thank you, David.
Just a question to either Robin or Stefan. If we were to accept this proposal for an extra $1 million, what does that actually equate to in 1 year in terms of replacement? So the argument is that we should be doing 2.6, but we're only doing 1.2. What would $1 million on piping in 1 year happen?
The answer is we don't know. We'd have to take, it's an accelerated capital works program on we're talking about mains renewal, treated water mains renewals. We'd have to ask Wellington Water what that looked like.
It's very much dependent on the ground conditions of where you're putting in the pipe, but maybe a kilometre, maybe a bit.
So spend $1 million and get maybe.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's very complex.
Yeah.
But next year we do have some money in there for our capital program for next year is a total of $9.6 million. And in there we do have a project to Featherston water main renewals. We've got 200,000 and then 1.875 million for another 4 years. So we've got a significant program of some renewals. In our annually recurring projects, we've also got some renewals, additional renewals, and they're kicking in later years at over $3 million a year. So we've got quite a big program of renewals.
Yeah.
And we've got wastewater renewals as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm very conscious of the fact that over generations we've underinvested in water. There is no doubt about that, and I can understand where Alistair's coming from and saying, let's take a big hit and let's do this now and let's invest another $1 million here. Unfortunately, we're going to be putting a Band-Aid on our problems now for some years to come. There is no doubt about that at all. And I think it's something we either tell our ratepayers at the end of the day that we try and cut our cloth to work within our funding, but we can't, unless we've got $1 billion windfall, we're not going to solve these problems overnight, and they're going to take a long time to do. So any investment we make will have to be applied to that. It'll take investment away from non-considered wastewater treatment plants. You know, as simple as that. We've got a big investment to do in Featherston coming up. You know, so we've got to try and find that balance between immediates and long term. So that's all of that.
Councillor Woodcock, thanks.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm a bit on the fence on this, sort of dollar each way, if you like. I'd probably consider more voting for Alistair's recommendation if we could make an amendment to that, whereas that $1 million can only be spent with local Wairarapa contractors. No outside contractors. They're not.
Can we make an amendment to it?
No.
Yeah, can't do it that way.
But you could always come back and after it and add that on. Okay.
I understand where councillor Plum is coming from, but I really think to put it in context a little bit when Robin was saying that for that 1 million with 1 kilometre approximately of renewal, and with the program that she already explained, we've got quite a small percentage of that. I think we should leave it as it is.
Do you wish a right to reply?
Perhaps.
Oh, sorry.
Look, to me, I just don't think that, you know, adding this amendment, putting another $1 million out there and things, and I know it's 0.3 when it's capital, which is great and could probably be looked at next year with the long-term plan. I think like this is an annual plan, so it's, you know, and I really think that is the time to be actually making decisions like this, rather than here at the table. And also, we've just agreed to these things, which has already put the rates up from 14.6 to 15.4%. And I'm just being really, really conscious of the fact that our ratepayers are looking at another big rates increase. And I don't think there should be anything else being put on there.
Thank you. Councillor Plummer.
I'll just go back to the point that it is never going to get cheaper. That's what you get.
Yeah.
It's more expensive. So when you say you want to look after the ratepayers, you are actually making it worse, because next year they will pay more, and the following year they will pay more. And for $1 million, we won't get a kilometre next year. We'll only get 800 metres. And then the year after that, we'll only get 600 metres. So there is no cheaper time than that.
The rates will be, and then compare them with rates.
Okay, no, that was the right reply. But that means that we were following standing orders. We can now put the vote, which is what we will do anyway. So all in favour? Oh, we better read it out just to make sure we all know what we're voting on.
Agree that $1 million in capital is specifically earmarked.
Sorry, Amy, can't hear you.
Can't hear.
I agree that $1 million in capital is specifically earmarked for water pipe replacement. So
Additional.
Additional.
1 million is added to the 24-25 capital programme. Specifically.
sorry,
Please.
do you mind? Sorry.
That an additional $1 million is added to the 24-25 water capital programme, specifically for pipe replacement.
Does that cover all 3 waters?
No, it's water, not wastewater. This is water.
Drinking
Water pipe replacement.
Water pipe replacements, yeah.
So agree that an additional $1 million is added to the 2024-25 water capital program, specifically pipe replacement.
Everyone hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Good, okay. So now put the vote. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
So that you can see them. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Those against, please say aye. No, please say no.
3,
No.
6.
So I have against Councillor Olds, Councillor Maynard, Councillor Woodcock, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Macaulay. Was there anybody else against?
So we're lost.
I don't think we will need your amendment, Councillor Woodcock, though I would have enjoyed voting. Now, there is a fifth recommendation here that we note that the council meeting is scheduled.
No, we
have decision 3.
Decision 2 and 3 to do.
Oh.
No, that was decision 2.
Okay.
No, we do.
No, we've got the water allocation.
Okay, so what has been now decided?
So decision 2 is to reduce the allocation of water
Yeah.
from 350
Oh,
cubic metres to
yes.
250.
Yes.
I move
And
that.
to increase the unit rate from $1.84 to $2.50.
Yeah, apologies. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Right, do I have a mover for that, please?
Yes.
We have a race to move.
It was Pip and then I'll see him.
One at the deputy mayor was close behind. Do you wish to comment?
No, I think that it's been clear, and that the through the consultation, you know, a lot of people were quite surprised at the fact that we were actually had such a high allocation. That and completely understood about why we were looking at bringing it down. And if anything, the biggest comment with regards to that I heard was why weren't we bringing it down more? And so I think that absolutely this should be going through.
Yes?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Certainly some of the feedback that I picked up on not only talking to people, but also reading through the submissions, was that people didn't know what their water use was. So it would be great if if council is able to let people know, and I know the meters are read annually, but it'll be great if there's an ability to, whether it's notify our ratepayers annually as to what their water reading is, whether it's gone over the allocation or not, and not only do that annually, but perhaps whether it's we're able to do it biannually, every 6 months, so that people can see and match what they're doing and keep an eye on it themselves, so that they do know what their water usage is, rather than just waiting for a notice that that says that they've gone over 350 or 250 cubic metres a year.
Yes, that maybe we hope that Janice has noted that and we don't need to vote on it.
I've got a bit of information, if I can, through you, Chair. Is that we do read meters biannually for high water users. So those who routinely go over the allocation, we read them in, I believe it's January, with the invoice coming out in February. And that we do have the ability to send people, and we've never done this before because we didn't want to confuse anyone. We can send people a $0 invoice when we do those June readings that says you don't owe anything and here's what your reading was. We didn't really want to confuse people by doing that in the past, but if we publicise it enough that that's what a $0 invoice is coming to people for, is to just show them their reading and how much water they've used, then that would be the least administrative way of letting people. We can also let people know, we can also let people know how to read their own meter. Everyone's meter is in front of their property, and it actually might encourage people to cut their bushes back a little bit so that they can read their own meters. So we can absolutely allow people to know how to read their own meter, which is the way to do it.
I was just going to follow up on what Charlie's just said, that we can have a bit of an education campaign on the back of this, if this is what you decide, to say, go and read your meter, do it every month so you can get a feel for how much water you're actually using. And that will also encourage them to be aware of leaks as well, because if they're monitoring it on a regular basis, they'll know when they're leaking.
Just see the headlines now. If we send out 7,000 invoices with $0 owing.
Yeah. I would suggest it wouldn't be, it would be more likely to be a letter that said your annual usage so far for this year was X.
Okay, so let's come to a decision. We know read it out again. It's reduce the allocated quota to 250 cubic metres provided to users and increase the excess water charge to $2.50 per cubic metres. So all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against, please say no. That's carried. And now we come to the question of paying for the replacement of our assets. And the recommended option is that we manage debt through cash flow analysis and only borrow what is needed as it is needed. Continue to fund an appropriate level of depreciation units. This is the budgeted and recommended option. I will move that. Do I have a seconder, please? I do, the Deputy Mayor. I don't wish to discuss it. I don't keep my thanks to Janet for all that responsibility. Melissa, any comments?
Just that by and large during the consultation and engagement period, it was the concept that probably most people will like tell me more about that. And once we had discussed it with them, I think I can only think of maybe one person who didn't say, oh, well, that actually makes perfect sense. Of course we'd do that. So I feel really confident that it's the right way forward.
Anyway, I recall one person. Okay, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those contrary, no. There are none. Look, there is a further recommendation to note that the council meeting is scheduled for the 26th of June. Do we need to vote on that? I think it's scheduled.
Just a note.
Just a note, that's correct.
If I could, before you close the meeting, I would just like to say, whilst we've landed at 15.4, we need to be aware that when the invoices go out because of the move to capital value, some people will see a bigger shift than 15.4 because the capital value redirects the spread. So that you're prepared for potential contact from the community to say, you said 15.4, mine's gone up X percentage. There is that other complication around value.
So just a bit on that, when time ago we talked about outliers, and that these outliers based on revaluations, and we would assess those when we had the new valuations in. Where are we with outliers and what would we afford for them?
From what we saw when we went through, there were no dramatic outliers in terms of your rates being challenged as being what's the word? There's a word I'm looking for, but I can't think what it is. But you know, if you were going from 20,000 to 200,000, then that would be an extreme reaction to that, and we haven't got any that are. You've got the orchards, but that's because we've got multiple suits going into the orchard. So in terms of I mean, if I just look at it from my previous experience, we had one that was paying about $30,000 a year, and if we shifted to capital value, it went to 400,000. So we would have had to have done something to negate that. And from what we've seen, and Charlie and I have been through every line of the rates and looked at them individually. We don't have any dramatic outliers either way in terms of extreme out or extreme down.
So it was my ambition for the end of this meeting by 2 o'clock for reasons which I need one other person to know about. And I failed, and I do apologise, but bearing in mind my ambition.
Just quickly, so Janice and Charlie, my question was about those outliers as well, because my concern was back at the end of last year when Charlie, you provided that information, some of that detail, when I went through line by line, there was like examples of people's rates had increased by 160%, 336%, or 400%. And I was really concerned about that. And I was just wanting to ensure that if that was coming forward, whether there was an opportunity to stagger under the going to capital, as to whether there was an opportunity to stage or stagger any increases. But if you and Janice are assuring us that there are no outliers of that sort of level of increase, I'm confident if you're able to provide that.
I'm not going to say, because I know that in the case of the retirement village, the rates are going up significantly, but that's because there's 58 units. And that's been telegraphed to them quite consistently ahead of the rates. I'm confident that there are none that we need to put any remedial actions around. There will be shifts, and because of the shift from land value to capital value and how that redistributes, there will be some big shifts, but that's what you would have expected when you decided to move from LV to CB.
I certainly accept that. But when I saw that there was, but those levels of increases, I didn't want to be in the same situation that that councillors around the table in the last triennium were, when rate increase was forecast to be whatever the percentage was, and all of a sudden it went to 29.5%.
There may be some that do that, and that will purely be down to the value that's come through.
Yep.
If we cannot move to any kind of staged approach without a decision at this table right now. So we either go with capital value, and it lands where it lands with the new valuations, or you don't.
Thank you.
Just with regards to that, you said though that there were, what's the kind of breakdown between those? Is it 50-50 that lots have gone down, or is it actually more like 80-20 that the majority have gone up? I'm just wondering where we're kind of sitting with that, because we, you know, for the rate, saying that the majority of them, it looks pretty good both ways. I'd just like to know, by pretty good, does that mean actually that's about like a split, or is it actually going to be the majority of them are going to have a significant increase because we've moved to capital value?
So the only change that we've made to rates here today is the removal of the economic development rate, which on a very hard average basis will add $45 to every general rate across the district. So less than $1 a week back on. Largely, other than that, we have stuck to what was in the examples that were in the consultation document. So you could look at those examples in terms of there was a more detailed level of examples. So there was, in the consultation document itself, was an average. In the supporting information, there were a low, medium and high value property in each town, in each farming category. So you could look at those to assure yourselves of what those outliers or what the shift is. So from memory, an average residential in each of the town was looking at a 9% increase. And that is largely because of that capital value flip. Whereas your bigger, more valuable properties in terms of improvements would obviously be looking at a higher increase.
And the 9% would be on top of the rate increase?
No, that's the
rate increase.
Yeah, absolutely. The capital value walks back 15% to 9%. So
Shifting the goalposts.
It's just.
I know to close our meeting.
If everyone's okay to join in again, that would be fantastic. Lumutu a mātou mahi, mō tēnei wā, ngā kitea mai mātou katoa.
O mātou toa.
O mātou whānau. Aio ki te aorangi. Kia ora.
No problem.
Oh, yeah.